What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joey Work. Rump Your Bets back again. Another week, another professional fighter. This week we got Sean Shorty Rock Santella. What's up, Sean?
What's going on? How's everything?
Good, man. First off, I want to say thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, taking some time out of your day to hang out with us.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Sean, based on Tapology, he's the number 2 ranked professional flyweight in the world. Yeah, I said that right. Number 1 in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, number 1 in the Northeast. He held multiple organizations titles, trains and coaches with some of the best fighters in the world. So, but on to some questions. I'm always interested to see how a fighter gets into MMA and whatnot. So what was the original reason, or how did you originally get into the MMA world?
So it started through jiu-jitsu. I was actually living in Florida. Always followed the UFC since I was little. We'd actually have parties when I was younger. Like our wrestling team would come over. We'd rent some of the very first UFCs and have like a little, pizza party. And I always followed it. Never thought I'd be fighting or training or anything like that. And I actually moved to Florida and got into a motorcycle accident. I got hit by a truck, and I had to move home because I couldn't work anymore because I was in a cast and I was all banged up. So I ended up getting into some trouble with the law back in Jersey, and I wasn't able to move back to Florida because I got put on probation. So I came back, and one of my old wrestling buddies started doing jiu-jitsu, and he was telling me, you got to come check this out. There's this little Brazilian dude. He's like this big. He's like 120 pounds, and he's beating the piss out of all of us. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get there. I was too busy partying and, getting into trouble. So one day I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And I went, broke my arm the very first class, and I fell in love with it ever since.
There you go.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that's a story for sure. That's awesome. All right. So obviously you got into MMA world quite early and have racked up a very impressive record, 23-7-2 to date. So what has kept your hunger throughout your career and desire to keep going forward?
I think just the competitive nature, I love competing. And honestly, it's really like the only thing I'm good at. So I didn't really have a choice. It's like I really didn't really gravitate towards anything else. I never really finished anything in life. I dropped out of high school twice because one wasn't good enough. I just never really followed through with anything, and I kind of fell in love with jiu-jitsu and then MMA and just competing. I'm very self-motivated with it, so there's not a lot of like outside drive that I need or anything that really is like, what keeps you coming back for more. It's just I enjoy it so much, and I hate losing, and I'm very competitive. So knowing that this kid or whoever I'm fighting, could potentially beat me in front of friends, family, because I hate losing so much, that's enough motivation for me to go and do my own thing if I have to, and just wake up every morning and push myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hear you. All right, so tell me a little bit about training at like Nick Catone's, Ricardo Almeida's. I know there's a lot of big name fighters over there. You're right in the mix with most of them, So how has your career evolved from training with all these big fighters and at these key gyms?
It's been great, man. Ever since I decided to actually do MMA and take it serious, because my first amateur fight, I was training in a wrestling school with a bunch of tough guys that we just got together and kind of just fought, And the coach at the time was, he pumped me up. Oh, I'll take this fight. And I was like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. Really not knowing anything. And I ended up losing. And I hate losing. Trust me. I can't stand losing at anything. And so I was like, I got to find a better gym. So I ended up contacting the kid that broke my arm the very first day of training, who I knew from even prior to jiu-jitsu. We were on the same like wrestling scene in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. He was a couple years older than me, but we stayed in contact during jiu-jitsu, and he ended up leaving the gym that we first started at to better his MMA career. So I went and checked out that gym, and that was the home of Jim and Dan Miller, and eventually Charlie Brenneman. Khabib was there for a little bit, Amanda Nunes, a lot of guys, Frankie and Ricardo would come up and stuff like that. So I feel like I was always surrounded by the best of the best from the beginning of my career. And then I kind of just, followed wherever a lot of them went when Jim and Dan opened up their own, school. And then after I left there, well, even while I was still there, going to Catone's, going to Professor Almeida's and stuff like that. So I've taken as much as I can, and I'm still taking as much as I can from all these guys. That's the one thing with me, even being a head instructor, teaching jiu-jitsu, I'm always a student of the art, So I constantly learn new things every day from my students, from my professors. I never, write anything off, and I'm still, like I said, a sponge to this day, and I love it. I think that's what keeps me, growing. And I think that's also why I've started to pick up a lot more clientele and people wanting to work with me at a higher level, So I love it, man. I mean, these guys are great. I'm always trying to give them a little bit when they ask me, and they're always giving me more information. We're always feeding off everybody's energy, making each other better. So it's the best, man. I never asked for a different path.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So I know your last fight with Brave CF for the flyweight title was a draw, and you guys are supposed to run it back, but obviously COVID ruined that. Do you have a target return date to the Octagon?
So what ended up happening is they tried to reschedule it a couple of times. I think it was like 3 or 4 times. And the first one was kind of quick, which was great for me. I wanted to get back in there right away. I felt like Torres had more to fix than me, So like I really just wanted to capitalize on it and just keep going. Plus, the one thing when I talked to Brave when I initially signed with them is like I told them I just want to stay active.
Yeah.
Like just keep me fighting. That's all I want. Whether, it's great to fight for the title, but in all honesty, I just want to fight. And I know if I fight frequently and I win frequently, eventually there's going to be a belt at the end of that at the end of that path,
Yep.
So my main goal was just fighting as much as possible. So they had to keep rescheduling because of COVID, the protocols in different countries and stuff like that. And then when we finally locked up a date, I had so many injuries lined up, and it was the first time I had to pull out of a fight in 32 fights, and it was just a sign, like it was just everything up until blowing out my eardrum like 10 days before the fight. And, I was going into that fight so banged up, I wasn't able to give it the best camp. And I told myself, I can't go into a rematch less healthy than I did the first time and expect a different result. So as much as it hurt me financially and like mentally, and it really aggravated me that I had to pull out, me and a couple of my friends and teammates just decided that it probably wasn't the best thing to go in there, taking a loss, for a paycheck, going in there that beat up, So unfortunately I had to pull out, and they had to move on with the tournament. So they replaced me. They got somebody to fight Torres, and he won. So he moved on to the semifinals. And I think he's fighting Ali Bagananov. Probably destroyed his name, but which should be a good fight. And I think the winner of that fights Vala Murad. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get back in there because the injuries, like, I had to see a surgeon, and it was like minor stuff. I need to have my elbow drained, my knee drained. I had some issues with my foot and my Achilles. I obviously had to take some antibiotics to get my eardrum because that was blown out. So it was more or less like bad timing and a lot of things telling me not to. So, it took a month, 6 weeks, and I was ready to get back in there, but they haven't rebooked me. I've been on their case though, because like I said, I'm trying to stay active, and they just haven't been putting on shows frequently. They just had one. So I'm gonna keep shouting them until they have to block me on social media. It's either they're gonna have to block me or they're gonna have to book me, one or the other, because that's at the point that I'm at.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll get it done one way or the other.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right,
Yeah.
so I do see in your Instagram profile Santella MMA. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I before the pandemic, I was actually going to open up my own MMA academy up in northern New Jersey, my hometown of Mount Olive, and I was out cornering Claudia Ledesma, one of my main training partners, last February in Toronto, and that's when everything started to come to a head with the pandemic. And when I got back, I was going to go sign my lease, and literally that week I was going to sign my lease, they closed all the gyms and we went on lockdown. So I ended up backing out, obviously, because it would have destroyed me.
Yep.
I put money down to have mats done, so I have money in the bank for that, and just decided that the time wasn't right. Even now, with everything getting back to normal, people are still a little iffy. There's gyms that still are like struggling, so I just don't think it would have been the best idea for me to open. So luckily, I was fortunate to be picked up by James Meals at Driven MMA, which is somebody that I've been friends with ever since the beginning of my fight days. He needed a jiu-jitsu instructor and somebody to focus on the MMA team, so he brought me on, and he's helped me out like tremendously. So I grew into a full-time position there, and it's been great. So I'm pretty much there full-time, and then I'm down at Nick Catone's a couple days a week helping those guys and teaching down there. So I've been fortunate to have people to help me out through tough times. And so Santella MMA is still my dream. It's still I don't want to say long-term goal, but it's still reachable. And I think I'm going to branch out. But, maybe it could be, an affiliation of Driven, or possibly maybe Nick Catone MMA if he decides that he wants to go that route. I'm always open for that. But sometime in the near future, I definitely think that eventually I am going to have my own academy, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. Good for you, man. I'm definitely going to root for you for that as well. But here are a couple questions, some fun questions before I get you out of here. So do you have any fight week or even fight day superstitions?
Fight week, fight day. Not as of lately, but I did. When I fought in Atlantic City, I would always go and gamble the right after weigh-ins, right? To keep my mind occupied. I would always lose too.
Yeah.
And when I lost, I would win the next day in my fight, and I would end up getting some of my money back, not just from winning with my fight purse, but actually gambling some of my money back.
Yeah.
And the one time I actually won money after weigh-ins, I friggin' lost my fight. So I almost have to make bad decisions, but I haven't been fighting in casinos with Brave, so I don't really, 30-something fights in now, between fighting halfway across the world. Yeah, I don't have any right now, except I always eat a Reese's peanut butter cup after weigh-ins. I bring it with me. I've done that ever since I started. So I guess that's, win, lose, draw, fighting locally or halfway across the country, I always have a Reese's peanut butter cup.
There you go. All right. So
and I was doing it before Aljamain and his M&Ms, just to let you know. Yeah.
All right, cool. One of the show followers sent in a funny question, especially with all this Paul brother nonsense going on. He asked if you had a historical figure, celebrity, or politician you would enjoy fighting.
Man.
If not, no big deal. We can move on. Yeah.
I don't. No, I mean, anybody that's going to put more money in my pocket. So maybe like Justin Bieber.
Bieber call out. Love it.
Is he still popular?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those guys that are popular that I can choke out.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I mean, on a serious note, I've always loved to really want to fight Demetrius Johnson. I've always looked up to him as a fighter. Him being the king of the weight class. Even though he lost to a super tough opponent, he's always somebody that I thought I matched up well with. And, I think you always want to test yourself against one of the best guys in the world. So, he's definitely a celebrity. I think he's one of the GOATs. So he was always one of my, like idols growing up, and somebody that I would like to compete against.
For sure. Mighty Mouse. Yeah.
Still a good money maker, but not as good as the other guys.
Yeah, not as good as these boxing guys are making. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen you with the pink stripe in your hair a lot. What does that symbolize, or what's the reason behind that?
So the pink's always been my favorite color. So whenever there was an option, ever since I was little, the option was always pink. But when it came to my hair, back in, I want to say like 2013, I tore my LCL and I had to have surgery. And the day I got out of surgery, I actually got the call up to the UFC to fight. Man, I can't even. Oh, Scott Jorgensen in Brazil. And I had to pull out of a fight with Zach Makovsky because of my knee injury. Zach actually got the call for his UFC debut, and he ended up beating Jorgensen. So I was like really depressed. I was in a cast for like, I can't even tell you, 10 weeks, I think. No weight bearing. I was just miserable. I couldn't do anything. So I was going to get my hair cut by one of my friends, Deandra. And she saw that I was kind of like in the dumps and wanted to kind of change it up. So it was her suggestion to go with the pink faux hawk. So I did it, and it stuck, and it still sticks to this day. Although I'm starting to lose my hair as I get older, so I've had to tone down when I'm gonna do the pink. So rather than literally have it 24/7, because I don't get the cheap shit, I get the permanent shit.
Yeah.
So I've pick and choose. When I have a fight, I'll do it. And now the problem is my teammates are like, dude, are you going to do pink hair? I'm fighting. I feel like I'm cornering literally every weekend. So I'm like, man, I got to think of what I can do. So I might end up falling back on a washable pink dye so it doesn't kill my hair. But yeah, that's the background between the pink.
Got it. All right, so one last question. I asked every fighter, how did their nickname come about? Yours is Shorty Rock, so how did that originate?
So it started out as just Shorty. I got the tattoo across my stomach, which I'm actually getting changed soon. I've had it, I think, since I was like 15 or 16. But I have an older brother that he's 5 years older than me. And I was always hanging out with the older crowd and his friends. And so they always just called me Shorty. It's been since I can remember, like 5, 6. They, because, I was hanging out with, 11, 12-year-olds. It was always Shorty. Where's Shorty at?
Yeah.
And when I started fighting, they just kind of threw the rock at the end. My very first instructor, Dan Yeager, he's like, Rock, Shorty Rock. And it kind of just stuck. And so then it was S Rock. Then some of my teammates called me Sexuality Rock. So it's been something rock this whole time, but mainly Shorty Rock.
Got it.
All
right. That's pretty cool. All right, so before I get you out of here, I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about these two co-main and main event for UFC 263 this weekend? We got Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, UFC Flyweight Championship. Got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, man. The first fight was awesome. Tough fight. I want Moreno to win, obviously.
Yeah.
I think he deserves it. He's like one of the I don't want to say Cinderella story, but he has a great story. He went on to the Ultimate Fighter. He lost. They brought him back. He went on like a crazy streak.
Yeah.
So you actually seen him grow as a fighter,
Absolutely.
which is really cool. And I always wanted to fight him. And even during that season, I was frustrated because I was mad that I wasn't able to get on.
Mm-hmm.
I tried, and unfortunately, one of the fighters, Matt Rizzo, that was on there, I had a no contest with because he said I illegally elbowed him, which from video footage was clearly not correct. He ended up keeping his belt due to a no contest and went on the Ultimate Fighter because he said he retired after me and him fought. That's why he didn't want a rematch. So he ended up keeping the belt. He went on to the Ultimate Fighter. So I was a little sore about that because I felt like I deserved to be on there. I didn't currently have a belt, even though I never lost any of mine. I just moved on. I tried to move on to bigger shows, so I vacated it, but never lost it. So, I was always pissed off with all the fighters on there, and I really wanted to fight every one of those guys because I truly believe that I should have won that season. And so, it was interesting seeing Moreno on there as such a young fighter. He really wasn't a full MMA fighter, at that time. He really needed some work on his ground, which he's done. And so I always thought that would have been a great matchup for me back in the day. Even now, But I think he deserves it. You know, anybody that misses weight kind of rubs me the wrong way. You know, and Figueiredo's had issues with his weight multiple times. I just don't feel like the people missing weight, like the penalty is harsh enough. I think that they should just get rid of, you know, like what they have now, and like your whole purse should be gone, and you should be suspended. You know, I think people should fight at a hydrated weight. You know, um, in my opinion, if you can't make weight, you know. I've always been a smaller guy at 25. I can make 25 hydrated very easily. So, you know, I always, you know, wish that there was a lower weight class for me to compete at instead of competing at a bigger weight class. So I kind of hold grudges with guys that miss weight, and with him missing weight a bunch of times, you know, I wish I could fight him too, but I want to see Moreno win.
All right, I hear you. Okay, so the main event is Izzy Adesanya, Martin Vettori. They're running it back after about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a split. Martin even got a round in there.
Yeah.
So this should be an interesting fight. What do you think about this one?
I think Vettori's going to win. I watched that fight, and I thought it was a good fight. I think Vettori is going to beat him, you know. I'm just not sold on Izzy. A lot of people like him. I respect him. You know, I think he's a great fighter. I'm just not on that hype train yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So I'll be curious to see how it goes. But I'm definitely a betting man, and I'm taking the underdogs both times.
There you go. Love it.
Putting them in a parlay.
There you go.
I don't have one of those bet whatever everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, the bet junkie, or I don't know, whatever they call people out, but I never follow them anyway. Most of the time they're wrong. But you can follow me for your picks.
There you
go. I have no discount. Just hopefully you guys make money. We all make money.
Yeah, so I mean, thanks again. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Can you let our followers know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys having me. Definitely check me out on Instagram, srock125, as well as Twitter. Facebook, you guys can just Google Shorty Rock or Sean Santella. And I just want to give a shout out to my teammates. We got a lot of fighters that I could just give them a quick shout out so you guys can follow my team. I know the struggle as an amateur and as a pro locally, you know, trying to sell tickets, because, you know, that's pretty much what a local fighter is worth, you know, starting out is your ticket sales. So I always love giving them a shout because, I know the struggle. So we have some fighters coming up with fights. June 26th, Maverick, Mike DeLuisa, Billy Markle fighting with Advanced Rules. We have some of regular amateurs, Nick Corelli out of Nick Catones, and my boy Taya from Northern Jersey. And obviously CFFC is loaded with a bunch of guys. We have Ryan Risco fighting. Hopefully everything's going to go through. My buddy Turple. My buddy Santos coming back from a tough loss. He's about to dominate the flyweight division. And then my girl Natalie fighting, making her pro debut. This girl has really grown as a fighter since I started working with her, and I'm super excited to see her get down to atom weight and start making her career. Big things for her to come. She's fighting Art of War, making her pro debut July 31st. So you can check that out. You guys, like I said, locally, you can always support by grabbing tickets, buying a walkout shirt, whatever the case may be. Anything helps. Always trying to support local fighters, man. I know the struggle. I did it myself. I hustled. I'm still hustling. So, big shout out to those guys. They helped me in my camps. It's the least I could do for them.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks again, man. We'll definitely be rooting for the future. FYI, I am sponsored by Sauce Bay Hot Sauce. Not sure if you like hot sauce or not, but
always. It's
an all-natural hot sauce. Seen on season 9 of Hot Ones. A lot of celebrities had it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kristen Bell, Juice WRLD. But as a thank you for taking some time out, I'd love to send you a bottle. So just DM me your address or whatever address to send me the bottle to.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely, man. So Another week, another great guest. Thanks again to Sean Santella. Make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you aren't, go follow both of us on Twitter, social medias. Good luck, everybody, this weekend. Peace out.